Bulavinakase, my motivational activity, I will introduce Chinese whisper to grab the students' attention and for the students to gain interest in the topic. This activity will test their listening skills of my students and how my students can pass the message on to the next person. The informations which my students will passing around, it will be based on the topic will covered and the coverage of the particular class. As for my class, the topic will be covered is short story. How I will introduce my lessons to my students. I will introduce the lessons of the class which they will learn. I will greet my students and I will ask them to pick up any piece of paper that they see around their seats and settle down again. I will do discussions about the topic. As for the introduction, first of all, I will greet my students. I will be recapping or refreshing their mind regarding to the previous class, what they are learned yesterday, and after that I will introduce the topic which will be covered on a particular class. The lesson objective of my class: by the end of the class, my students should be able, firstly, read and understand the story. Secondly, explain what the story is about. Lastly, learn the message that the author is trying to portray. For the questions, there will be question asked to the students on the topic and the lesson covered. The content of my class: in this class, my students will be focusing on the short story, which is A Pair of Black Shoes from the book Talimai. The lesson will be enable my students to read and understand what the story is about and to identify the themes and style of the writing that the author has used to bring out the effectiveness of the story. The lesson will begin with the motivational activities. The students will read the story together and copy the summarized notes displayed on the board. The notes will be discussed after the students have copy on their books, and then activities will be given. All activity will be marked in class after the students have completed. Students will also be given time to ask questions in order to clear their doubts about the lesson taught. Towards the end of the lesson, the teacher will make sure that the students have understood whatever that took place in class. I will be recapping and brainstorming of notes to my students. After that, I will be giving out exercise and marked at the same time in class. Like the teaching material, I will be using newsprint and red guard and pencil pen. For the marker, will be used in order for my students to work in group. Like for the teaching material use, I will be using newsprints, vanguards. I will distribute my students into groups so that they can work in group. They can explain to each other the terms or what they are not understanding. They will be writing down their answers in the vanguard sheet and present it in